everybody. I am joined by a special guest today, Dmitry Nesmiianov. Did I say that right?
Yeah, it's almost right. It's a Dmytro in Ukrainian, but that's yeah, pretty right.
And Nesmiianov, I did okay with that one?
Yeah, that's 100%.
All right, awesome. Uh, now, Dmytro is Dmytro. He is a seller on Amazon, but he lives in Ukraine. He grew up in Ukraine and has had some incredible experiences, obviously, with what's happening with the conflict. Um, but as an entrepreneur, as a seller, his life is super fascinating. So I wanted to spend some time and talk to him so that we could get to know him and understand more about his journey and what's going on. So thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brendan. It's such an honor, honestly. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here and ready to share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking a little bit before, and you grew up in the Donbass, which is the eastern Ukraine. Grew up
Yeah,
speaking Russian,
yeah.
and so tell me more about like how you came up. Like what kind of what kind of lifestyle did you have? Is it middle class over there? Like what is it? What was your childhood like?
Yeah, well, my life was pretty average by Ukrainian standards. Yeah, I lived in the eastern part, mostly Russian speaking, but never been to Russia. I went to school and since I was a kid, I learned English because I was always interested like in American culture and that was usually everybody had an idea to get somewhere in life you needed to learn English. So yeah, but I wasn't very good at school. I was kind of rebellious kid, and English was probably
How
one of
how were you
the
rebellious? Were you did you act out because school was too easy for you? Like you didn't want to study or what?
yeah, like we had like a very strict set program. Like I know in US, I think it's more like flexible, like you get to pick what topics you like.
Well,
And
not in
back
elementary school through high
uh,
school. Generally you're in the US that you've got the basic core you have to do.
mhm.
So it's not too much where you get to choose for Americans either.
Yeah, but like over here, like, well, at least back when I was in school, you couldn't choose anything. And, we had like mostly, I guess, old Soviet systems that were not very, like, I guess, friendly to pupils. And like, the system itself, I think it's a little bit better now. They did some reforms trying to aim more at European level. But yeah, I mean,
How old are
yeah,
you now?
25, gonna be 26 next
So you're
next
talking
month.
about 15 years ago is when you were going through all this. Did the
Yeah.
teachers did the teachers have the right to hit you?
Not really, but they would often like more verbally cross the line. And what I didn't like about school, they would, you know, we had a test and they would publicly announce the results with the
Mm.
results. And yeah, everyone who was doing bad was
I
ashamed,
think
you
they
know?
do that ranking system in China too. That's not just Russian. I think maybe it's a communist thing where they want
Yeah,
everyone to have a competition amongst themselves, right? Like
exactly.
they
Yeah.
want you they think it's going to motivate you.
Yeah, and like in Soviet times, on like factories at the main entrance, they would have a board with like top performers, and whoever disbehaved, like let's say you were caught drunk after work, they would put like your photo and that like you are, the factory is ashamed of you. It was a real thing.
Oh my gosh. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So you're going through school, you're not really getting along. You don't like the system. So what did you drop out? Did you finish high school?
Yeah, so I finished high school and again, since I was a kid, I was mostly good at English, so I also picked up French. I was more or less fluent in French. I didn't speak it for years, so don't remember a lot. But Yeah, also did a little bit of Spanish. So I just had an idea of, doing something international always as a kid. And like back then, even it was 10 years ago, but the Instagram, all of that wasn't that much developed. So like I didn't even know about Amazon at that time,
Yeah.
obviously. And when I just finished school, my last grade, that's when the war started, the first war in Ukraine, 2014.
Yeah.
So yeah, because that started,
That was the first invasion. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, and exactly, it started with my city basically, and I was lucky enough that I finished school exactly at that time, and I could leave, so I didn't have to stay there. But yeah, I had to leave my hometown, and I didn't visit it like for 10 years now because it's still under occupation, but hopefully not for a very long time.
This is a little
Um,
off topic because I want to talk to you about entrepreneurship, and this
yeah,
might get a little political
yeah,
here, but
sorry.
it's real life, right? Like this is what you're
Yeah.
experiencing. What percentage of the people that were in your town where you grew up do you think are sympathetic to the Russian side versus the Ukrainian side? Because that's the argument that they're making is like if there's a peace treaty, Russia still wants to control that because they were saying most of these people speak Russian, they want to be Russian. Is that true or what's the reality?
So it really depends like what circles you had, and it's hard for me to say the numbers, but I'd say like from my circles, most of people wanted to be in Ukraine, even though like I spoke Russian all my life and all of my friends, but we never had the idea or desire to be part of Russia. I do know, there was some significant amount of people who wanted it, but I do think the reason they wanted it because Russia invested a lot of money in propaganda, and maybe that's the media those people consumed that made them think so, and
A
otherwise they
very
wouldn't.
powerful weapon, the media and propaganda. It is
Yeah,
insanely powerful. So
yeah.
I imagine a lot of people that didn't want that anymore also fled like you did and maybe left. So maybe the concentration of people still there are more sympathetic to the Russian side.
Yeah, of course, a lot of people couldn't bear there, especially because, you can be open about supporting Ukraine, but still a lot of people are there because they have some old parents who can be moved anywhere. So there are a lot of people who are still there and, waiting.
And how's like the lifestyle there changed? I mean, is it under Russian control? I know they have a lot of their own economic problems, right? And communism versus, free markets that Ukraine was trying to move towards. Has the light like from anyone you know that's still there, is it harder now? Is the economy worse?
Yeah, so it's basically like a great territory. It's under sanctions. You don't have like visa working there. You can't like create like you can't register as an Amazon seller if you're from that territory. So yeah, of course, life is harder. The supply chains were all connected with Ukraine, and now they're all broken. Of course, the salaries and all of that dropped. Or many factories or whatever businesses were there closed. I mean, some people are still getting by, of course. It's like not a complete dead area, but it's nothing good. You can't expect nothing good out of being a gray zone.
Yeah, that's such a hard life. Well, let's fast forward. I mean, that's a little grim, and I appreciate you sharing that. That is super real, right? Like what you went through there. So you leave 2014 when that goes down. Where do you go? You had mentioned that you went to college. You went back to school.
Yeah, luckily I had some family in Canada, and after school I went to Canada to college. But yeah, as we talked before the call, it's very expensive. Here I was like 17 or 18 at that time, just came like from the war in Ukraine to Canada, and I didn't exactly get along with my family. So I was almost like on my own since day one, and I was like working on construction since I was 18 in Canada. Had to pay for my school, just for living there. But I also had people from Ukrainian community reached out to me and helped me out.
That's amazing. So how did you after you what did you go to school for?
So at first I had to like take more English classes, and then I went, it was like more of a trade school, like a gas technician, slash electrician. So, like installing,
Yeah.
fixing, gas furnaces, more like with electrical, stuff. But I never really worked in that field. Yeah, but that's what I went for.
So I think in America we definitely need a lot more technical schools, right?
Yeah.
I think that if we invested, I think college for the most part isn't right for most people from a traditional standpoint. Like getting a bachelor's degree in any type of arts or an associate's degree isn't going to do much for most people. And it's just not right for everyone. But we need a lot more technical trades. We need a lot more tradesmen. We need a lot more builders. We need just people that are going to be skilled workers, right? And I think we really fail our people in America by not investing more in technical schools. So I hope that that's something that we move towards. We just don't invest enough at home with infrastructure and education, but maybe we can stop building bombs and start doing that, right? Like we're just known for that's our biggest export is weapons, right? Which has been good so far for Ukraine because I think that they've done a pretty good job deploying them and depleting the military
Yeah.
in Russia. So you get done with technical school. How did you find out about selling online, e-commerce, Amazon? Did you save up some money to get started? How did that process go?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. Yeah, so I basically continued working in Canada, and I had like these jobs working on construction. And at first, I was like just running around like a little boy helping to older guys. Then they taught me something. Then I worked at a sign shop. We were making like large signs that you see like at McDonald's or whatever. And yeah, all that time I wasn't very happy with all these jobs because they were all very dirty, and I had to do like 10-12 hour shifts, like 5-6 times a week, and was super exhausted. And I was like in my early 20s, and I was like thinking, man, this is not like the Canadian life I came for, you know. So yeah, I was always trying some online side hustles at some point. So there is like a huge difference for like an iPhone price in Ukraine and the States and Europe. So I tried flipping some of those
So you
to
started with
some,
arbitrage.
yeah, kind of like I would send some to Ukraine to people that I know for some profit. And there was some problem with like customs and paying taxes, so I couldn't really scale it. But those were like more my first attempts. And I like took some gigs that I could with like social media management, and I was just like really trying to find a way to make money online. And I was always listening to podcasts at work. And one day, accidentally, I heard a podcast about Amazon private label. It was like 2017 when I was working at the sign shop, and it really interested me. Sounded like a solid model where you buy product in China under your own label and sell it in US. So yeah, I had some money saved up, and decided to learn more about it. Then bought my first product in China, and yeah, sold it in US. That's kind of the short story.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what category did you start with?
I think it was home and decor. I can actually tell you what the product is because it failed. Like my first product failed.
That's
So I
very
didn't.
common, right? Like
Yeah,
most.
I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the seller systems data dive back then. I was selling a product. It's like a artificial flower under the glass dome.
Uh-huh.
They were very popular at that time, like fidget spinner almost.
I think that's
So
the thing. Maybe depending on who you learn from, they're going to steer you. Sometimes some of these fake gurus, they
yeah,
all steer you to the same product.
yeah,
And then what
garlic
ends up
press or
happening is
something.
you find like 8 pages of the same exact product, and it's very hard to differentiate. So the only way people are able to win is by beating each other up on price. You end up selling out and moving on, but most people lose money that way.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of these other sellers were selling similar product. They were Chinese sellers, but yeah, it actually the product was selling, even though again I didn't have so much experience back then, and I was learning about Amazon ads, just doing everything by myself. And then I came back to Ukraine because it was generating some revenue for me, and I decided, yeah, it's pretty comfortable to live in Ukraine with the US income. But yeah, then the product went stagnating. But I learned more about Amazon PPC, and I joined like a whole bunch of Facebook groups for Amazon sellers, troubleshooting advice. And I started noticing a lot of sellers asking for help with PPC, and I was reaching out to them, and I started having first clients like that, Amazon sellers, and that's how I met Muad on Facebook, and yeah, basically started working as a PPC manager for him, and over the years it went more of a partnership. We signed with the seller systems and yeah, scaled our brand, and now doing the agency. So that's kind of the story.
You really fast forwarded through quite a
So,
lot there. Like
so
you kind of you're like, yeah, and then we did this thing and then that thing, and now we're making millions of dollars. End of story, right?
no,
Like,
no, not yet there. Yeah,
so you
sorry,
you
sorry.
partner up with Juan, right? And you start
Yeah,
working together.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
uh you're driving your own brands while still now building an agency helping other sellers.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually that quick. We partnered up like
You said
about
it
two.
quick, so but it wasn't
Yeah,
that quick.
yeah, yeah. We partnered up actually about 2 years ago, maybe like 2019, late 2019, just before COVID. That's when we
Mhm.
first met. And yeah, we were, growing slowly because again, I was just managing PPC, and then he had only like two SKUs. And then I decided to learn more about like marketing, brand management, and that's probably sometime I discovered about you and other Amazon experts, and we did our first photo shoot back in 2020, which had like our first significant boost when we realized for the first time, and I know you teach this in your program, how important it is. But we didn't have, again, so much knowledge back then. It was our like first real pro photo shoot, and we like even did two more photo shoots after that.
Yeah. So for anyone watching, content, like the images that you put, like one of the biggest drivers you have for people wanting to click on your product, because you can really convey the value of your product. And you have to think, like, as a shopper, you're going to be attracted to the one with the best images, the best looking content, the one that's not obviously photoshopped or some guy with a cell phone camera, right? So investing in content is key to separating yourself and making sure that your metrics, your clicks, and your conversions, your sales are at a high enough level so that you can rank your product. So SEO on Amazon is driven by performance and relevancy. Performance being click-through rate, conversion rate, and revenue. And so we teach a lot around the importance of content and making sure that you're pulling that lever and doing it the right way. And it can be all the difference between a product that fails and one that's profitable.
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you from my experience, like having my own brand and managing other brands, that even like when you don't have a very strong brand presence on Amazon and you always have like Chinese sellers oversaturated niches, but very rarely like Chinese sellers invest in good photo shoots, even though they have the resources. But just by having really high quality photo shoot, even with more expensive product, you can always stay on top of competition. I saw that many times.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So when you're running a PPC for for a brand through your agency, and I want to talk to you more about the agency side. Um, how upfront are you around taking on a client and letting them know what they need to fix? Because like you can only do so much from an advertising standpoint. You can run ads, but if the product looks like shit, the images aren't good, like you can't do a lot. If they didn't write the listing properly, the like the indexing isn't right because it's not written properly. uh, so how active are you with helping them and taking a 360 view versus just trying to get in the numbers with PPC?
Yeah, for sure. And I always do this analysis to make sure, if the product is set for driving traffic, because it is really important. And, bigger Amazon sellers know this, smaller Amazon sellers, I mean, they're getting more aware of it, how important the creatives, how important the product page copy. And we try to offer these as services as well. We have some great talent. And yeah, if you have the best PPC setup for bad product page, it will perform so. If you have a great product page and if so PPC, I think it will perform better. I mean, I've seen it before where I would audit an account with good product page but bad PPC setup, and surprisingly the PPC setup wasn't working that bad, just because the Amazon algorithm, it's finding the right stuff way easier.
Yeah. All right. So you basically you partner with Juan in 2019, 2020. You enter 2020 with 2 SKUs. Here we are. We're 3 years later, right? I can't believe it's 3 years already.
Yeah.
2023. Feels like the last 3 years have gone by in a blur for a lot of reasons, right? But how many SKUs do you guys have in those brands that you own now, and how much revenue did you do in 2022?
Yeah, so right now we have 25 SKUs, and most of them are variations, color and size, but they are like very popular, like the color specific. People want the colors with our product. And last year in 2022, we were a little bit short under a million. But this year we're gonna do over a million for sure. We already can see the pace. Plus, we launched in Canada just last year. And right now we're in the process of launching in the UK, then Germany, and rest of Europe. So we're definitely gonna go over a million.
So you're doing your global expansion. You have your hero product, it's doing well, and so you want to go wider with that versus launching a bunch of new products as well. That's always an interesting question that you have to ask people is, the amount of effort it takes to take that product. It's great. So sometimes that's a good indicator to go wider, right? Or spend that same amount of time and then launch more products on .com, which is a much bigger marketplace, right? So it's a lot of effort to take something to a new supply chain, to a new market, new launch, new listing, languages, VAT, so taxes. There's a lot you have to learn and discover for each new marketplace you go into. New regulations, new testing, packaging is different for everything. So for us, it was always, let's just launch more Amazon.com products. We know that supply chain. We're bringing in containers, and then we'll figure out international later. But you're going the other way, which is interesting. But here you are, a couple years in, you're going to do over $1 million. You have a multi-million-dollar business now, and you started in Ukraine with 2 nickels to rub together. You came to Canada, and here you are, man. And so the agency was already kind of kicking off in 2020 as well. How many clients do you have? What kind of revenue did you do last year as well? And how many people work for you?
Yeah, so like back in 2020, 2021, I was just like more of a PPC manager, managing like PPC. So we really started positioning ourselves as an agency like last summer, I'd say, when we like had the significant boost in our brand. And Muad, because he was like my partner in brand already, but I was still like trying to uplift the agency myself. And when we had like this great boost last year, when we signed to your program, and a few months we were really working hard on the brand, actually like in the middle of the war last year. We had this significant boost, and yeah, we decided to more emerge as an agency. But I've been managing maybe about 20 brands before, and they were mostly smaller brands, about our size at that time or even smaller. And then when we last summer, when we decided to emerge, a lot of those sellers, and that's what you had a question for me about the analysis. A lot of those sellers, they stayed smaller, and I always try to give them advice about like, you need to update your copy, you need to update your images, because they had the same stuff since I started working with them like 2 years ago as a PPC manager. So unfortunately, a lot of those guys I had to give away to, some other friends or smaller PPC managers, and we mostly started from scratch. So right now we have about 10 brands in the agency, and they are doing about 50 million in monthly sales altogether.
So the companies you're managing are doing $50 million. You're going to do over $1 million. And I was saying one, but it's Muad. I apologize. And
Yeah.
what is the revenue? What is your revenue from your agency managing $50 million? Do you charge a percentage of revenue, or do you charge a flat fee?
So yeah, like each client is different. We provide like only PPC management or like full account management. So depending on that, but usually it's like a retainer, plus like per ASIN and plus a percentage from sales or ad spend. But yeah, I'm not a like financial guy. Muad is very good at that, because like we're partners 50-50 with everything, and like I'm more as a marketing guy, and just the same as like in Amazon business, I'm good with Amazon ads, I know the numbers there, but when it comes to like calculating profits with the shipping, it's really hard for me, and Muad is really great there. And like for the agency, um he's more of a finance guy for us.
So I think it's super important to have a partner that complements you, because if you have two people that have the same strengths and weaknesses, it doesn't do you much good, does it? And
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
kind of where Jennifer and I are a great team as well, because we complement each other in our skill sets, and it's been able to work for us. So, what is the name of the agency that you guys have? For everyone watching,
it's Sales Bite.
Sales Bite. I like the
Yeah.
name.
Thanks.
But I
Yeah.
just I just wanted to really get on a call with you more so to talk about your story. I love entrepreneurship stories. I love, you know, uh seeing people who figured it out, right? Like, you never took no for an answer. You had the opportunity like to sit there and continue to work in those jobs that you didn't like in Canada, and save, and maybe settle down and just accept that as your life because it was better than the alternative. But that wasn't enough for you, and you kept working, and you kept figuring out ways to make money, whether it was flipping cell phones and electronics from Canada to Ukraine, or figuring out private label and ordering, goods and sending it, and with your own branded, packaging onto Amazon with Amazon private label. You eventually figured it out, and then offering services and figuring out the services business is a good way to cash flow, so you can invest in your business and your brands yourself. And that became a bigger business as well. So you've diversified between agency, your own brands, and like you said, you're living on a U.S. income in Ukraine, which is wonderful. So I appreciate you sharing your story. What would you say to anyone out there who's, not happy with their situation? What did you have to tell yourself? Like, what was driving you to look for something better?
Yeah. Honestly, uh, I just always wanted a better life. Like I said, I was pretty average, and I didn't have like this magic stick. but always just wanted for better. And honestly, Brandon, a lot of times in my life, even though like I'm still very young, but with the experiences I had a lot of fails, and many times I was ready to give up, but just always try to find, the light of hope, and also looking up to people, having someone to learn from, like you, as I said, because I discovered about you a few years ago when I was searching for Amazon knowledge. So yeah, just finding the right person to listen to guide you, and yeah, to motivate you. I don't know, whatever happens, but just don't give up. And if I could make it, and I mean, I don't think my result is even anything great, but yeah, there is a lot of opportunity today.
Your
You
your
can be
your
anywhere in
your
the world.
result is extraordinary, my friend. And
Thanks.
when you say the message is don't give up, um, giving up's not an option.
Yeah.
So for anyone watching that's going through a hard time, um, last year I had a friend who was an entrepreneur, failed, and he took his life,
No.
and it was really hard. And anyone going through it can just see that failure is part of the process. Failure is how you learn. It's how you earn your stripes. If it came easy to you, you wouldn't even appreciate it, right? And you wouldn't learn from it. You learn the most from failure. So don't let it, like, don't give up. Just keep figuring it out, keep learning. So, dude, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. It was super inspirational to me. I hope it was inspirational to everyone watching, because this is one of the most amazing opportunities I've ever seen that's ever existed in the planet. You can live anywhere in the world. We have thousands of students, and most of them are all over the world: Australia, Europe, Asia. And you can sell on Amazon.com to Americans. So just figure it out. Don't give up, and keep plugging away. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. Such an honor. Yeah, thanks for listening to my story.